Storytime test. I 16 female think my stepdad wants to do something to me. I'm not really sure what that thing is, and I'm not even sure if I'm just overreacting. I kind of need advice. My mom started dating him when I was 7, and they just recently got married, so he's been in my life for a long time. I've never really seen any red flags or anything until recently. I've been catching him just staring at me, and it creeps me out because he just keeps staring, even when I stare back at him, almost like he's looking through me. But he's never touched me until last week when we were alone on a trail. My family usually goes on weekly hiking trips together, and that was the plan, but the day before we were all supposed to leave, my mom got really sick. It was like, as soon as we finished eating dinner, my mom started vomiting all over the place. Then a couple of hours later, my little brother started doing the same thing. I thought that meant we would just skip the week, and I was glad because I didn't want to go anyway. But that morning we were supposed to leave. I could hear my mom and stepdad arguing in their room. My mom was saying it didn't make sense for him to take just me, and my stepdad was saying it didn't make sense for him and me to stay in the house since we were the only two not sick. I for sure did not want to go with just my stepdad, but I wasn't afraid. So when my mom asked me what I wanted to do, I said I'd go, because I didn't want to hurt my stepdad's feelings. It was a huge mistake. The drive up to the trails was like an hour, and it wasn't bad. We got there, chose an easier trail, and everything seemed fine. Then out of nowhere my stepdad started to go off of the trail, even though it's something he tells us never to do. That was the first time I started to feel weird, but I still wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid of getting lost. We were just walking and exploring when suddenly everything went dark. I had no idea what was happening, but I couldn't see anything. It was hard to breathe, and someone was bear hugging me and trying to get me on the ground. I just kept kicking and throwing my head back, punching anything I could do to get the person off of me. I was starting to get really tired, so I started screaming for my stepdad to help me, but he didn't answer me. I thought I would never make it out of those woods, but I wanted to at least see who was doing this to me. So I stopped fighting whoever it was and started trying to get rid of the thing covering my face. I was on the ground almost immediately, but I was able to take what ended up being a bag off of my head, and that's when I saw it. I didn't want to believe it, but it was my stepdad kneeling over me. He had this look on his face that I can't even describe, and I was terrified. But as soon as he realized the bag was off of my head and I could see him, he started smiling and then laughing. I didn't think any of it was funny, but he just kept on laughing. Then he told me I did a really good job, and I passed his self-defense test with flying colors. I really didn't believe him, and I still don't, but I felt like I had to play along because I was still out in the woods alone with him. The rest of the hike was a nightmare, and that night when we got home I couldn't sleep at all. At one point my stepdad was just standing outside my room for what felt like hours. He was pacing back and forth and whispering to himself. I just pretended to be asleep. It's been almost a week since we went hiking, which means our next hiking trip is in a couple of days. Nothing else has happened, so I'm not sure if I should tell someone or just leave it alone. I don't want to make a big deal over nothing, but at the same time, I don't think what happened in the woods was a self-defense test.